Hello, welcome to video number 17, distance problems. I'm Ms. Les.
I'm Ms. Yadira, and we'll start with our first slide. So we have the formula for distance, which is distance equals rate times time. So what we want to do is, we have a car is driving 65 miles per hour. How far will it travel in 2.5 hours? So we start with distance, and then we have rate, which is 65, and then the time will be 2.5. So if we calculate that, Ms. Les is going to put
so 162.5.
162.5, that would be our distance. Okay, our second problem here we have is Mindy's walking 6 feet per second down Belmont. How far will she go in 12 seconds? So we have distance equals, and that would be 6, and then the seconds will be 12 seconds, which is time. So we have D equals 72
miles.
There we go.
Okay, so let's take a look at something a little bit more complicated. Okay, so before we get to the actual problems, there are 3 different types of problems, okay, when we talk about distance. So the first set, you're either moving at people moving in opposite directions. So one person goes here, the other person goes in the opposite direction, or people could be moving towards one another, or one person is chasing another person, so they go in the same direction. Okay, so moving on to example 1. So we have 2 motorcycles start at the same location and travel in opposite directions. So here are my 2 motorcycles. Oops, let's get the pen quickly. Okay, so one motorcycle goes in one direction and the other one goes in the other direction. Okay, one motorcycle is going at 35 miles per hour. So I have 35 miles per hour, while the other is going at 50 miles per hour. 50 miles per hour. How long will it take for them to be 204 miles apart? So I want their total distance to be 204 miles apart. So before we actually answer this question, let's take a look at a guess. So for part A, we are asking, will it take them 1.5 hours to be 204 miles apart? So my total distance comes from the distance of the first motorcycle. So remember, our general equation, distance is given by rate times time. So my first motorcycle is moving at 35 miles per hour times the time, which is 1.5 miles per hour. Which is 1.5 hours, plus the second motorcycle is going at 50 miles per hour times 1.5 hours. And the question is, will that give me a total distance of 204? Okay, so let's get the calculator. So if we multiply that and add 3.5 times 1.5.
That's 52.2. Let me just double check. Yep, 52.5.
Okay. Plus the second, you can add them all together.
52.5. 127.5.
Okay, so nope. So we have 127.5, which is not equal to 204. Okay, but now I can look at this process and figure out what would be the equation for this problem. So for part B, I want to write an equation for time t. Okay, so let's take a look. In the first equation, I had 35 miles per hour times 1.5, that was the time, plus the second motorcycle went 50. So here again, I have the time. So using that for my equation, I have 35 t for the first motorcycle, plus the distance of the second motorcycle, which is 50 times t, that should be equal to 204. So combining like terms, we end up with 85t is equal to 204 divided by 85. Okay, so what do we get for the time?
That should give us 2.4.
Okay, so 2.4 hours. So just a little less than an hour and a half. Okay, So next example, example 2.
Okay. So now we have two bicycles that are initially 36 miles apart, starts traveling towards each other. So we have this one here is traveling this side, and the same, they're traveling towards each other. So the first bike is going 8 miles per hour, and the second bike is going 12 miles per hour. So how long would it take for them to meet each other? So first we take it.
Oh, sorry.
So first we'll give will it take them 2.5 hours? So let's see, we have 8, and then we have 2.5 plus 12. That would be 2.5. Now what would that be here if we put that?
So we have 50.
50, and that is.
We wanted our total distance to be 36.
36, here you go. So that means no.
So that does not work.
So our second equation here, we have write an equation for the first time t it will travel for them to meet. So we have 8t plus 12t, and we want 36. So we add these two together. It's 20t equals 36. Okay, we want to divide that by 20. That would be
T is equal to 1.8.
1.8 hours.
Okay, so just a little less than 2 hours.
There you go. How about we continue with the next example?
Okay, so we have one more example. Okay, so example 3, a little bit more challenging. We have Janet starts jogging down a trail at 4.5 miles per hour. Okay, so we have Janet. Let me get my pen quickly. Okay, so she's going in one direction at 4.5 miles per hour for half an hour before Bob gets there. So when he gets there, Bob starts running at 6 miles per hour after her. So Bob is following her at 6 miles per hour. Bob starts running 6 miles per hour after her. How long will Janet have been running when Bob catches up with her? Okay, so now in this case, the key is we want their distance to be equal. Bob is catching up to her. Okay, so let's take a look at the first guess. So the question is, will it take 1.5 hours? So let's check. So again, remember, distance is equal to rate times time. So Janet's distance has to be equal to Bob's distance. So Janet's distance, I have 4.5 times the time, which is 1.5. Is it equal to Bob's distance? So now Bob's distance is 6 miles per hour times, remember he started half an hour later, so if I had 1.5 hours for Janet minus 0.5, okay, so he'll be running for an hour, and is this equal to the total distance, which is, oops, sorry. So their distances are equal, okay? So let's check that. So 4.5 times 1.5, what do we get for that?
So we have 6.75.
Okay, so 6.75, and is this equal to 6 times 1, which is 6? Okay, so no. But now we can look at this process again and try to write an equation. Okay, so if I look, I had 4.5, this was my rate, time 1.5, and then for Bob, the time was Janet's time minus 0.5. Okay, so translating that into an equation, I have 4.5, t is equal to 6, which is Bob's rate, and now I have time minus 0.5. Okay, so simplifying that, 4.5t is equal to 6t minus 6 times 0.5 is 3. Okay, so solve the equation, subtract 60 on both sides, subtract 60 on both sides. We end up with 4.5 minus 6, negative 1.5. T is equal to negative 3. Divide by negative 1.5. So what did we get? Okay, so T is equal to 2. Okay, so 2 hours.
Have the journal assignment. So keep in mind your formula and also keep in mind which direction both persons are going, and you should be able to solve 1 and 2.